Welcome into CBS Sports HQ. I'm Amanda Garrett with you here for the next hour. A lot of moving parts this afternoon on this Wednesday in the world of sports. Major League Baseball trade deadline. That is now just about 24 hours away. We'll let you know if any trades come down, but also a lot of developing news coming out of multiple NFL training camps. And that is exactly where we begin. After a contentious summer, a little bit of playing. Where in the world is Trey Hendrickson? The Bengals star defensive end is ending his holdout. Instead, he's going to be a hold-in, meaning even though he's decided to show up to training camp, he's not expected to practice until he gets a new deal. Led the league in sacks last season, looking for a long-term extension. Spoke extensively to the media this afternoon about his image in showing up to practice.
Yeah, things are exactly the same. What I'm not going to do is, as best as I can, avoid being a distraction. I want to help the guys. The guys that have helped me along the way, Mario Davis, Cam Jordan, even Sam Hubbard helped me a lot when I was here. So to be that right now, I think that's what's most important, and this narrative will kind of iron itself out as we continue to progress towards the season.
Joe Burrow has also been vocal talking about how much they need Trey Hendrickson, and you can see why. Take a look at last week, weeks 1 through 13. They were 4-8. The Bengals, at the end of the season, the last 4 weeks, phenomenal, 5-0. So they're hoping to build on that momentum and get a strong start to the season this time around. Taking a look at the Bengals schedule, things kicking off week 1 at the Browns, at the Jags week 2, then Vikings. So somewhat, it could be a little bit of a softer intro. If you take a look at the difficulty of schedule, the Bengals are tied for the 12th most difficult schedule in the NFL. Browns training camp, speaking of the Browns rolling on, the biggest question surrounding Cleveland for everyone, the quarterback situation. With Deshaun Watson still hurt, the Browns brass admitting maybe that was not the best contract for us. It has become a very crowded quarterback room with the likes of Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, rookie Shedeur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, and Shedeur Sanders has not been getting first team reps. Head coach Kevin Stefanski was asked about that this afternoon.
I'm not going to get into specifics on the players and where they're getting reps and those type of things. He's working extremely hard, like all those guys are. We're still not yet through the installation schedule. We're still just introducing 2-minute yesterday. We'll introduce some different distances today, situationally. So I wouldn't really think much past that.
Taking a look at notable Madden rankings for rookies, because this is a point of contention for them. They do trash talk about it a little bit. None of the first 3, though, are quarterbacks. Travis Hunter, of course, who's now with the Jags. Ashton Genty, running back for the Raiders. Abdul Carter, they drafted him 3rd overall for the Giants. And then Cam Ward, your first quarterback on the board with a rating of 72. Speaking of Cam Ward, and not to throw generations into this, but I'm going to, had a very generational way of describing his team's offense right now. Mid. Hopefully you know the term. If not, it is slang for something that is average, mediocre, unimpressive. Ward, the #1 overall pick for the Titans, took responsibility for the way the offense has been playing, saying it all starts with him. Here's more.
I just think we're very mid right now, from my position to up front to the receiver's position. But at the end of the day, it all starts with me. I just don't think we're at where we need to be. But we got a little bit of time, and so every day we get better as a whole. We're a young team, but that's no excuse. At the end of the day, we got to come with the right mindset every day and come to work.
Let's welcome in our quarterback, Danny Kanell. Our producer, Noah, who you just constantly have beef with sometimes, even though you went to the same school. He said you don't know what mid does. I say you do because your daughters are also Gen Z, which Cam Ward is. You know what that means, right? You probably know other words.
100%. Yes, I've known this term for a long time, longer since Noah's been alive. I've known what mid meant. Absolutely. I love that Cam Ward called out everybody. I think this is great. This is why I think Cam Ward is going to be special. A lot of times you see rookie quarterbacks a little bit timid, a little bit shy. They're afraid to criticize anything in the building. He didn't call out one specific player. He didn't call out a coach. He called out himself first, and then he said our receivers. It goes around to everybody. What he's basically saying is the standard that's been here for a while, which has been very mid, needs to change. And I think that if you're Brian Callahan, you're watching your young franchise quarterback call everybody out, typically that's when the head coach has to call people out. But when your quarterback's doing it, that puts everybody on notice. Man, if our quarterback's putting us on blast, we need to go out there and make some changes and start playing better. I even love it even more after reading that he struggled a little bit in practice. He's holding himself accountable, saying that is not good enough. And the best part about it, it's early in training camp. There's room for improvement. So he's trying to light a fire under everybody. I think it's a sign. Pete always talks about, our colleague Pete Prisco talks about fire in the belly. This is the fire in the belly I think he talks about. The ability to go up there, call out your teammates, call out yourself, because he's been at practice. It hasn't been great. So he's calling it out, and he's going to hold everybody's feet to the fire.
And to move on to his personal struggles, I was listening to you on HQ earlier, and you brought up a really good point, and that this is common for these rookie quarterbacks, and they actually build on as training camp goes. Kind of explain how that happens.
So we just heard Kevin Stefanski, right, head coach of the Browns. He was saying we haven't even got to 2 minute yet, or situations. You start off with the most basic plays in your playbook. They call it day 1 installation. That'll be like your first day or two at practice. Then you add day 2 installation, which is a little bit more formations, a little bit more complex stuff. Then you go day 3, and it goes all the way up to day 8 or 9. It's an entire process. So when you start getting in there 7 and 8 days of installation, it all starts to compile. And then you've got goal line situation and short yardage situations where those formations and play calls get really wordy and confusing. So then you're out there as a quarterback, you're trying to process all this information, and guess who else is installing 8 and 9 days of install? The defense. So you're trying to process so much in your brain. You're seeing defenses that maybe you're not familiar with. You're overthinking things, and when you think, you can become paralyzed or you make bad decisions. That's why I think this is totally normal to hear this from young quarterbacks, that Cam Ward might be struggling somewhat, but the one great thing I've heard from him is the work ethic. He shows up early. He'll be grinding in our tape, and he'll be fixing those issues. The things that are confusing him now will not be confusing him week 1 and 2 of the football season when you get to the regular season. So I think this is totally normal for what Cam Ward and the Titans are going through. And
not just that, calling out his teammates, which you also said you love there. So the Titans last season, they finished 3-14. The Panthers not much better. They were 5-12. Dave Kanell is, though, praising his team, saying Bryce Young, Ted McMillan, this connection is phenomenal. But it's really interesting looking at the Panthers because they're kind of embracing this young core group that they have. Can we rely on young players to be very successful in a league full of veterans where we're normally relying on the veterans?
No, but I think this is a time to build up their confidence, right? This is a franchise which has been a little bit rattled, and they've been a disaster the last several years. And I give Bryce Young a pass for year 1, Dave Canales last year. So essentially I look at Bryce Young almost like a rookie last year, and he gets benched and he battles back. But I think the sign that's positive is that Dave Canales said he's had a great offseason. I mean, think about it. Your rookie year, you get there, you're kind of overwhelmed, you're learning things. Then by the time you get comfortable with it, they yank out that offense, they throw in a new one at you. So for the first time, Bryce Young's had some repetition. He's able to call the same plays in the same playbook. Some of the receivers he's able to get used to. Tedero and McMillan, their first-round draft pick, probably infuses some life talent-wise to that wide receiving core. So I think this is a time for Dave Canales to be optimistic and try to build up a team's confidence, which has been completely fractured. Now, Amanda, I'm not going to go out there and say they win the division or anything, but I do think they will be more competitive, and I do think you'll see Bryce Young take another step forward as a quarterback. It's always going to be judged off the bar of first-round draft pick, like you're supposed to be a Hall of Famer, and I think those are lofty expectations. But what Bryce Young wants to prove, coming into a time when you start talking about, contract years, are you picking up the extra year? Are you talking about long-term extension? It's imperative that Bryce Young this season proves himself as the future of the Carolina Panthers. And so this is a huge year for him. I think Dave Canales has started off by trying to infuse some confidence in him and his team.
And just to build on what you said, he goes, look, I'm also realistic. We're not going to win every game, but we're at least going to give every team a solid game in competition. And he said last year there were a bunch of pushovers. They're not going to have that this season. Let's go to another young quarterback. We got to talk about J.J. McCarthy and the Vikings. We had on John Breach, Tyler Sullivan yesterday, said, what team made the postseason last year that's not going to make it this season? And John Breach said the Vikings because of J.J. McCarthy. He doesn't have faith in him coming off that injury. He's not proven yet. However, J.J. McCarthy, faith in himself, saying he's finding his touch again. Take a listen to what he said. Nope, I lied. We don't have it. How do you like that for live TV? So basically, Danny, he said he was finding his touch, and let me find the note here. Significant strides in layered balls. Explain what that means from a quarterback perspective.
Well, I think what he's talking about is just getting more comfortable with every aspect of throwing the football. And you know this better than anybody, man. Coming off a major injury, like, it gets hard to start getting back to life. And even the most routine task can seem a little bit confusing. But what do you start with? You start with walking, and then you learn how to jog, and then you learn how to run, and then you might learn to go play sports again. J.J. McCarthy, when he comes back, he's just starting to throw on a straight line, right? And then he's starting to rip the ball a little bit more. And then all of a sudden, what he's talking about is developing those touch throws, which are more feel. And when you're talking about a leg injury that he went through, like, that takes some time to get used to. I will say this. I am not fully on board with the J.J. McCarthy's going to be a home run from day one. I think the Vikings got worse from moving on from Sam Darnold, but I also think that the Seattle Seahawks got worse by signing Sam Darnold. Like, I think the Vikings would have been better off sticking with Sam Darnold. I get there's contracts and you don't want to guarantee him too much money, but this is a quarterback who was in a system that wasn't too quarterback reliant. Yes, they were in situations and he came up big on some third downs, but it's not a quarterback who went too many games over 300 yards. I don't think he had any over 400 yards. I think he's going to find himself in a much different position where he's going to be relied to do a lot more in the pass game, what he hasn't been asked to do much in college. And this is a pass-happy game in the NFL. There is a lot put on your plate. So I think this is going to be more of a learning curve year for J.J. McCarthy, for him to try to prove he belongs in this position.
Let me ask you this. Does he at least look better than he did when he was on the sideline last season? Remember
Yes.
when he was on the sideline?
He cleaned up the hair,
who is that? Is that actually J.J. McCarthy?
Yes, and I think he even got, like, his ID checked because they didn't even realize he was a football player. Yes, I think he's going to look more the part this season, cleaned up the hair a little bit, probably added a few pounds to his frame as well. So, yes, I think he'll look the part of franchise quarterback walking in the building for sure.
We'll see if he can play it. Danny Kanell, hang on. I got a lot more to talk to you about after this break, but we do need to talk about Aaron Rodgers. Let's not say he's betting on football because he's not doing that, but he is betting on fights at training camp. True story. We'll explain coming up. Apparently things are a little bit more fun, a little bit spicier than we thought at Steelers training camp. Last season, they finished second in the AFC North behind the Ravens, had a 10-7 record, also lost the Ravens in the wild card round. Biggest question this season, can they make it back to that point, and can they do it with a 41-year-old quarterback in Aaron Rodgers? Aaron Rodgers has been a part of a lot of training camps. He's seen a lot of things, including a lot of fights. Here he is talking with Pat McAfee about just that.
Hey, fights are exhausting for players during training camp, but also it shows how together your team is, how tough your team is, what they stand on. I think it's a big deal. Now, I don't think Tomlin is promoting fights, but if you have no fights, I think that's a problem.
He's definitely not promoting fights. You know, it's one of the rules, no fighting. But if something starts, whip yeah, get it on, baby.
All right, it is kind of like telling brothers, hey, don't fight now, and I'm going to have you guys come out here and hit each other, but don't fight. It's going to happen inevitably, Danny, it seems like, at training camp. Where do you stand on fights at training camp? Good, bad for morale? What do you think?
Oh, I think it's great. I think every coach, just like he said, like Mike Tomlin's going to say to the media, we don't want to see any fights, but you want to see some fight from your team. And if they're fighting against each other, I think that's a great sign. Like, you're showing a hunger and a desire to get better. But it's human nature, right? You guys, especially the offensive and defensive line, like we're seeing right here. I mean, that's usually the fight that always kind of unfolds because they're banging on each other in inside drills. They're banging against each other in pass blocking drills. They just get sick and tired of each other. So sooner or later, they're going to start to throw blows. It just always happens. The wide receiver versus DB fights, those are kind of like NBA fights. They're a little bit of a pillow fight. They come out there, they throw a couple land punches, they come break it up. Now, if they were taking bets on who's going to fight, and that's what Aaron Rodgers was talking about, like who he thinks is going to be the first fight, I guarantee you it's not going to be a TJ Watt, right? As soon as you see TJ Watt in a fight, watch how quickly the coaches will come in to break it up because he's their multi-million-dollar man. But if it's an undrafted free agent or somebody who's on the bubble of the roster, they'll let it play out a little bit, kind of see who wins that fight potentially, see who's got that toughness you're looking for. But every coach, deep down inside, they like their team getting a little nasty and showing some fights. It does get to a point, though, where it becomes a distraction. And that's when the coaches will dial back. Then they'll start running, or they'll threaten the whole team. Hey, if we have one more fight, we're going to run you guys after practice, or we're going to run gassers. That's when you know it's kind of crossed the line, because there is a give and take. There is a fine line with how much you want them fighting, because you don't want them to destroy practice time or practice reps. But every coach deep down likes a little bit of fight on the field.
Aaron Rodgers, by the way, said Zach Frazier or Mason McCormick. That's who he was going with. Just really curiosity. I mean, after practice, like, I'm a very sensitive person, which is why I don't get in fights with people. But, like, do you guys just make up after? Like, does this linger over a couple days? What happens after the fight?
On a serious note, that's the one thing that you can't cross. Like, you do not want that coming back into the locker room or into a meeting room. That's when it can get ugly, because then it's not as much controlled. Believe it or not, these are kind of controlled fights. It's almost like when you watch hockey and the refs watch, and as soon as they hit the ice, they break them up. Like, as soon as a helmet comes off, you'll see the coaches and officials get in there a little bit quicker. But it is kind of controlled fighting. In the locker room, without pads, you know, it gets a little bit more uncomfortable. I've seen it happen a very small handful of times. That's when it can get ugly, and no one wants to see a fight inside the building. It's like, keep it on the field. Most guys are able to compartmentalize it and say, all right, like, once we cross back, you know, we're football players, we're warriors on the field. We get back in the meeting rooms, we're exhausted, we're tired, we just want to get through to tomorrow. Usually they're able to check it at the door, but occasionally you'll see a fight creep over. That one nobody wants to see.
Okay, hopefully staying away from that. Mike Vrabel, another coach, also warning, do not fight, especially he does not want to see the rookies fighting. What Mike Vrabel is condoning is himself getting out there. Look at that, Danny. It's like a padded vest, almost like for a dummy, going after it with the players. How much do you love to see this from a coach?
Oh, I love it. I think the players love it too. I mean, I've played for all different kind of coaches. Some are CEO types who kind of sit in a tower and watch from afar and just take notes. Others are way more hands-on. I do think it's interesting, some of the positions that Mike Vrabel's looking with. You saw him looking with some defensive line guys. Looks like maybe a tight end here. Think about what he played. He was an old defensive lineman, so he's working things that are right up his alley. Even played a little bit of tight end, caught a pass or two for the Patriots for touchdowns. I think the hands-on experience, that hand-to-hand combat he's teaching there, really goes a long way, especially when it's a coach that played your position. It's not to say that coaches can't be great if they didn't play the game, but when you did at a level like Mike Vrabel and you get that personal one-on-one interaction, it allows a couple things. The player-coach relationship, there's a barrier that kind of breaks. You're like, oh yeah, he's one of us. He's been here. And then it develops a trust and kind of a companionship that I think is one of the reasons Mike Vrabel is one of those coaches that was a home run hire this offseason and why he's had so much success throughout his career.
And not just that, I mean, yes, look, the past season didn't go well with the Titans. He's smiling there, something we've not seen from him in quite some time. So maybe he feels even more comfortable being back in that Patriots system. Interesting situation down in Florida. Tua Tagovailoa giving praise to rookie quarterback Quinn Ewers. If we remember, we were wondering, should this guy even go in the draft with Arch Manning kind of coming in, taking his spot? He's already been with Ohio State and then went to Texas. And he said, look, I'm betting on myself. I'm going into the NFL. He was taken in the 7th round, and Tua giving him flowers. Take a listen.
I think Quinn's been balling. I think he's been buying into what he's been told in the quarterback room, and then things that he's taken from the meeting rooms with Mike's meetings, Slo's meetings, and Bev's meetings, and he's been able to take that out here on the practice field, and he's been doing really well.
All right, Danny, Quinn Ewers betting on himself so far at training camp, working out. We have seen Tua miss time before. Could we potentially see Quinn Ewers on the field?
Yes, I think you could. I mean, and that's just because of Tua's injury history. Like, there hasn't been seasons where he's gone 17 weeks as the starter. So if he has to take a week off or even a half off because, you know, God forbid he gets hit in the head again, you're going to see one of these young quarterbacks, you know, to have an opportunity. And Zach Wilson was another offseason signing. But this isn't surprising at all to me. With Quinn Ewers, a lot of times we were talking earlier about the rookies, how overwhelming it can be learning a system. Quinn Ewers is a bright quarterback who's played in a lot of different different systems, played with a great offensive mind in Steve Sarkisian. So I think his ability to consume, process, and execute a playbook is probably elite level. The big question marks were injuries and top-tier arm talent, which is one of the reasons he fell in the draft. So now he's in a situation where he can forget about all the predictions and where he was going to go. Now he's got a great opportunity to position himself as the backup quarterback to Tua. And if he steps into this type of system, which is high volume, like you want to get the ball quickly, you want to anticipate, you want to be accurate with the football, those things are all fit Quinn Ewers' skill set perfectly. So I think this is a great spot for him to be in, backing up Tua. And I think the Dolphins have a great opportunity to develop some depth behind Tua, because anytime Tua's been hurt throughout his career, there's been a massive drop-off. And I think for once they might have a luxury of having some quarterback depth behind him.
We've seen that play out with the Dolphins not quite getting to the postseason. One more thing coming out of training camp today, we're going to go to the Chiefs. Evan Washburn was there. He's making the rounds. And I was listening to him talking. It's pretty interesting. And he said, you know what, for the first time, not for the first time in a while, but just for the first time recently, the Chiefs actually have a reason to have a chip on their shoulder. They lost. It was not a good Super Bowl. It was not a close game. And even talking about how instead of going out and celebrating, they got right to work. Patrick Mahomes came in slimmer than he did last season. Travis Kelce looks like he's in better shape than he did last season. I mean, could we see the Chiefs, and do they legitimately have a reason to have a chip on their shoulder?
Yes, and they have to generate it, whether they like it or not. I mean, it's hard to have a chip on your shoulder when all you've known is Patrick Mahomes is making it to the AFC Championship game, and in large part, most of the time, making it to the Super Bowl. You have to play mind games with yourself to drive yourself to greatness. And last year, it was very trendy. I know I was one of those people who's like, I'm not picking against them. Sure, they can go three, they can get a three-peat. They can repeat or get the first time in history we've seen a three-time back-to-back-to-back Super Bowl contender. So then all of a sudden are we seeing the end of Travis Kelce as the Andy Reid Patrick Mahomes pairing? Have we seen the end of this dynasty? So for once, they don't have to generate it from within. They can actually listen and hear some of the criticism and use it to drive them, because it's really hard when everybody's telling you how great you are to really replicate that. So for once, they've actually got some legit criticism, and they were knocked from their perch by the Eagles. So I think this is great news for the Kansas City Chiefs in that locker room as far as health and hunger. Like, you want a team that's hungry to get to the top of the National Football League. And so now they'll actually be able to do it. I think it's a great mindset for them to come into, and they don't have to fake it. They actually can generate it, because there are some question marks about this team.
I'm giving you 20 seconds because our producer's saying move along. Happy Gilmore 2. Did you watch it? Did you see Travis Kelce in it?
So Hassel needs to get off his old grandpa chair by saying it's the worst movie he's ever seen. If you went in expecting The Godfather or, like a cinematic masterpiece, then I'm sorry it didn't meet your expectations. If you went in thinking, you know what, maybe it's like Happy Gilmore 1, which was kind of stupid and fun and goofy, then you were pleased. I was pleasantly surprised. I went in with low expectations. I loved all the cameos. Is it the best movie I've ever seen? No, but I thought it was exactly what I thought it was going to be, and I found myself laughing a few times. That's all I was asking for.
I thought it was dead hilarious. But I will say, Bad Bunny over Travis Kelce as an actor. Danny Kanell, thank you for chatting with us for like 30 minutes during this show. Our training camp tour continues. That is hard to say. Thursday, tomorrow, we're going to be with the Patriots. Speaking of Mike Vrabel, maybe we'll ask him about getting out there, practicing with his players, followed up by the Rams, the Raiders, and then on Sunday, the Bengals, and all the drama that's been going on down there.